Many have searched for the truth on the mysteries of our world. But in reality, there are no mysteries, only a lack of information. These are the unveiled mysteries of light. During an expedition in the Sea of Guller, 3 hours from the Australian coast, a fishing boat that had caught fire was found 2 hours later. This ship belonged to the company Benny of Brazil. It is impossible that a ship coming from Itajai, Brazil arrives in 2 hours to Australia. Australia Daily News published the article. Only a couple of hours of having released the publication, the newspapers were bought by a company called Searson, which is a company that belongs to the government of the United States. It was said that several bodies of the crew members were found, but surprisingly they found a burned body that didn't belong to a member of the crew, nor did it seem human. The creature had the torso of a human but the fins for legs. In the captain's logbook found on the ship, the following words were recorded. "They have been following us for more than 2 days, only few of us have seen them." At the end it was recorded. "We captured one, but I believe that it was a mistake. We could see a wave in the distance, maybe it's the biggest wave ever sighted." What is the truth about this event and the mysterious being?
The being found on the ship is what you would call a mermaid.
So in fact mermaids are real then? I suppose that these amphibians are not all mermaids, but rather there are also mermen.
You can call them tritons.
So the male is the triton?
Yes, but not from this planet but from a world which is known as sea. Notice that sea means ocean in English too.
How far away is that planet from Earth?
It is around 80 or 85 light years, not so far from here.
How did they reach our planet if they are sea creatures?
I will summarize. In the world called sea there are 2 civilizations, a terrestrial civilization, with beings that are of carbon but specifically they are vegetable life, and the others are the aquatic beings. Because they are amphibious beings, they can breathe in the water and out of the water.
Can they be on the surface indefinitely?
Yes, they can be indefinitely without any problem because they have lungs and also gills.
Then it is true that all the sailors have seen these mermaids. Columbus himself had claimed that he saw them and he was disappointed because of how ugly they were.
Yes, although many stories have been told about the attractiveness of mermaids, it is not true that mermaids are beautiful women with beautiful hair and a fishtail. Their face is not attractive at all.
I see. Do they have abstract concept of thought? That is to say, are they intelligent beings?
Yes, but without being able to develop technology. When the vegetable beings visited the Earth 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, they also took in their ships these amphibious beings. When these beings saw our immense seas, so rich in food, they proposed them to stay. These vegetable beings have tremendous ethics and they refused because they didn't want to interfere with terrestrial life, and they tried to prevent it. But these amphibious beings managed to escape from the ship and they hid in the sea where they couldn't be accessed, and then the others returned to their planet.
How many amphibious beings stayed here?
Around 100.
And how do they move to the shores with that fishtail?
They don't move easily because on the surface they lack of locomotion in the inferior part, but they crawl on the shores of the sea, crawling to the rocks to take sunbaths or some air, but nothing else.
How many of these amphibious beings are there at the moment?
About 1,000. They are very few, since they have been decimated by natural predators, like the shark, and also fishermen with their harpoons and rifles in the last 200 years.
Where do they inhabit?
Preferably near the coasts. It is frequent to see them in the Mediterranean Sea, which is a very warm and calm area, although it is near the European continent and it has marine traffic. They can be found also in the seas of Australia that are barely navigated. It would be exceptional to see them on the side of America, which is less likely.
Returning to my original question, did they really follow the ship that was found burnt?
What happens is that these mermaids like the human shape. They are very attracted by the male Homo sapiens sapiens.
You leave me totally perplexed. Are they mammals?
No, obviously the human being cannot procreate with them because they are oviparous beings. That is to say, they lay eggs. But since they are attracted to the Homo sapiens sapiens to such extent, their desire manifests as an envious hatred because they are not able to have them, and for that reason they allure the humans to enjoy and kill them. They use a kind of mental power, similar to telepathy. It is not telepathy, but I use this term due to the lack of a better term. With that power they produce in the mind of the sailors a star of lethargy and at the same time an enchantment that seduces them. Many sailors have succumbed to this enchantment and they have submerged with them in the waters and they drowned.
At this time I am remembering the Odyssey of Homer, where he says that Ulysses was tied up in order to not mesmerized by the song of the mermaids. Is this what happened with that expedition? Were they enchanted by these mermaids?
Correct.
What happened to that surprising transfer of the ship? And about that gigantic wave? How did the ship travel such a long distance in that time?
What happens is, just as well as the Bermuda Triangle is an area where there are portals or wormholes to other worlds, in the area where the ship was exists a kind of portal that allows one to move quickly in our world, traveling thousands of nautical miles in a few seconds.
And what happened to the mermaids?
The mermaids were also dragged through the portal along with the ship and the crew members towards the coast of Australia. When they arrived to the other side of that wormhole, the fright of the sailors was enormous and in the confusion they entered in a kind of a fight against the mermaids that wanted to climb onto the ship to control them.
Let's see if I understand. How many sailors were in the ship?
Around 25.
And the mermaids?
Approximately double that.
Couldn't 25 sailors dominate 50 mermaids? I say this ironically because I find it absurd.
You are forgetting that they used their mental power to stun and confuse people they want to catch.
You are right. And what about the fire?
During the fight, a fire took place because of a lamp that fell over and burned the whole ship. The mermaids rushed to the sea and they escaped. In that moment the sailors were frozen and all the sailors died in the fire.
Frozen in which way?
They were mesmerized by the mermaids and caught in that mental cloud where they were too dazed and confused. There were no survivors, only pictures, recordings and videos were found and they have been locked very well by the American government. That is the extent of the details on this event. I will leave you now.
Thank you for your message.